So, vielen Dank, Ralf. Und ich möchte mich erst viel bedanken bei der Konrad-Adenauer-Stiftung. And now I'll switch to English, because it's an easier language, even if I might have half German myself. So, I've been asked to explain you how these French primaries are going to intervene. But first, I was, as I heard these very interesting intervention from our US and then English colleagues, I didn't know that the main theme of this conference was how did it go wrong? And I hope it won't bring me bad luck, as I'm campaigning and as our primary will be end of November. We have now 6 weeks of campaigning now before us. So, before explaining you the primary, I think that I need to explain you the French political landscape in 5 minutes, which is quite a challenge. Because how you explain how we came to this primary, which is not in the French tradition. It's a new way of designing candidates. Once upon a time, that means the 60s to the end of the 20th century, in France we were in a four-party system, in two families. Two big parties left, two big parties right. On the left you had the socialist and the communist. Remember, we were a very important communist country. And on the right there were the Gaullist party, and then an assembly, a mix of Christian Democrats, liberals, which was roughly the center. And it went that way for the 40 last years of the century, and it went that way because parallel to that, our electoral system is a two-ballot system. And this explains why we had for such a long time this four-party system. The two-ballot system, of course, helps the four-party system. Two-ballot system is a system where at the first round you can have two or more candidates of the same family, because you know that the second round then you will be one of the right family and one of the left-wing family. That's an old saying in France: on the first round you choose, and the second round you eliminate. So this went completely okay, and that's the reason why we didn't need the primaries. For the presidential election, you had very often, almost always, two at the first round, two right-wing candidates and two left-wing candidates, knowing that at the second round you could only the two best could compete, and then of course the left-wing candidates could get all the left-wing voters, and the right-wing candidate could get all the right-wing voters. What changes is in 2002. For the first time, the extreme right candidate, Jean-Marie Le Pen, for the Front National, won the first round, was before the socialist candidate at the first round of the presidential election. So it was, of course, nobody had anticipated that situation. Of course, no poll, as always. But we had this situation. And since the Front National has become the third family, in fact, and that is the first fact that explains the primary. You cannot afford anymore to go divided at the first step, at the first round of the election, because the risk is what happened in 2002 for Lionel Jospin, which was a socialist candidate, is that with two candidates of the same family, you'll be behind the Front National candidates, and then you cannot compete on the second round. And there was a second factor who led us to the primaries, which is the fact that slowly France, at the left as at the right wing, did not find their natural leader. We are one of the last really monarchist countries in the world. We believe in natural leader. We always had natural leaders who came from their party, but came to the president as a candidate, as naturally the only candidate. And first thing that happened was in 2012, last presidential election, where at the left wing they did not have any natural leader. The fight for the chair of the Socialist Party between two ladies, Ségolène Royal and Martine Aubry, was a huge fight who left bloodstains on the walls. And after that, there was no leader. The chairperson of the party was not accepted as the natural leader. So it led the Socialist Party in 5 years ago to organize a primary, an open primary. They tested closed primary 5 years before, but this time it was open primary, so that would mean that everybody could vote during this primary to design the socialist candidate. And that when they organized that on the right wing, everybody criticized and laughed and saying it was a very bad and poor idea. Nobody would vote at that kind of election, and they would only fight in between their own family, and it will be very bad. At the end, that was a huge success. It was 2.5 million voters at these socialist primaries, led to the designation of François Hollande, who finally was elected president. On the right side, of course, this precedent led to the same solution. We still have this Front National as a threat, and we did not have any leaders after 2012, after the failure of the presidency, where Nicolas Sarkozy, former president, lost very badly the election. So in 2012, you have, again, on the right side, a battle, and a very bad battle, to get the chair of at that time it's called UMP, the party, the Gaullist right-wing party. Battle between the former Prime Minister François Fillon and the outgoing General Secretary with Jean-François Copé. A battle went also very bad. Jean-François Copé at the end won, but of course he wasn't accepted as the natural leader. So the same situation, same solution. Solution is we are going to go to primaries. And these primaries, same solution as for the socialists, open primaries. How do it functions? It's rather much more simple as the American system as explained this afternoon. It's very simple. It's open primary everywhere in France, 2 ballots, 20th November, 27th November. Everybody who is a voter, registered voter, can vote. Don't have to show any party card. The only limit is you have to pay €2 and you have to sign a little charge, a little engagement that you are for the right-wing and center values and you want the change, political change. So it's quite short and not very hard to sign. These primaries are organized mainly by the Republican, which is the big right-wing party, but it's open to any party of the center. The thing is that the second party, which is the UDI, is so divided that none of the leaders will have taken the risk to count their own voices, so they didn't come to this primary. But we have still the leader of a very little party, the Christian Democrat Party, which is in France not the CDU, but really one of the tiniest party we have. But he's still candidate. How can you get candidate? There were strict rules. You had to get a certain numbers of signature on your name. 2,500 party members, 250 local elected, and 20 MPs, which is rather difficult to obtain. And at the end, only 6 candidates achieved this goal. So now we have 7 candidates, 6 coming from the Républicain Parti Républicain, party has Les Républicains, and the 7th is the leader of the Christian Democrat Party. And now we are campaigning. What is really in these 7 candidates? In fact, you have 3 to 4 candidates. Significant candidates, and the 3 others are obviously just running for the show. The situation is you have 2 main candidates, and what happens since beginning of September, everything is built by the press, by the polls, about this duel between Nicolas Sarkozy, former president, who is coming back after having declared in 2012 that he was retiring the politics and would never come back. That's politics. And Alain Juppé, which is a former prime minister of Jacques Chirac, who was mayor of Bordeaux, was ministered many times. And behind that, you have a former Prime Minister of Nicolas Sarkozy, François Fillon, who never really succeeded in being the third man. And in fact, the third man was a complete unknown 4 years ago, which is Bruno Le Maire, which I'm campaigning for. And he is now the only challenger and real challenger. How did we achieve that result? Now, you must know that 4 years ago, if you had in France, you have been speaking of Bruno Le Maire, who would have the same comprehension I've seen in your eyes. Nobody knew who was Bruno Le Maire. The whole deal, the whole goal was how in France, where normally it needs 20 to 25 years to make a significant candidate, how would you build that in 4 years? And the first goal, that we have now a significant candidate, is achieved. Now the second step is to make him elected. That's the whole new story. How did we get to this result? By the same rules that were explained this afternoon by our US colleagues. Groundwork. When myself makes 30 years that I make a political campaign. Professionally, I'm a lawyer, but I was campaign counselor for Jacques Chirac for the two campaigns, 95 and 2002, the winning campaigns. And 4 years ago, when we made a deal with Bruno Le Maire, which I knew before, we made the same constatation that there was no leader at all at the right wing, but how could we, in 4 years, build a candidate? And the rules are very simple. You need an organization, you need money, and you need groundwork, grassroots work. And so we started from nothing. At the beginning, there were 12 persons around Bruno, but the deal was he will campaign everywhere in France. And 4 years after, he has made 440 meetings in 4 years, which is kind of a record. And the result of that is, as long as every time he was making a meeting, and these meetings at the beginning were, of course, with few people, 100 people, 150 people. But at each time, people were coming and saying, okay, I'm interested, I want to work with you. And so, slowly, we could build an organization, and a real organization. You cannot campaign if you do not have responsible people in charge at every step of the electoral organization. So in every constituency, in every département, which is our counties, we have one person in charge, and under that, of course, whole teams. And up in Paris, I have put a group of young, mostly MPs assistants who are in charge of a part of the country. I've divided the country in 8 parts, and each one is in charge of one of the country. It's a whole organization, rather military organization. I'm coming from the Gaullist party. We have a very strong history of organization, and that was the main point that led to the fact that slowly Bruno Le Maire happened to be better known, and as he was better known, and that is a very very strong proposals for France, money would come, and success. And the first success went for the election in 2014 for the UMP presidency, where what was the time where Sarkozy came back, and the only one who was courageous enough to campaign against him was Bruno Le Maire. It was a party election. In the party, Sarkozy was considered as having only his groupies. And at the end of this election, we took a third of the whole vote, which was considered as a big victory. We didn't win, but that was the step that made us known. Today we have a real candidate. We have an organization, and we are, and that makes me a little creepy. The same situation as Ted in the US. We have a very good candidate, very structured, with a very enthusiastic team, a very strong team, a very good organization, ground work, and a limit which is access to medias. We have in front of us what we say media stars or media bozos, wherever you want, but politics which are, of course, better known and have a better access to media and know really good how to play with the media. Situation, in fact, is we have now Alain Juppé, which is high in the polls, with a very calm campaign. He's 70. His card, his program is, of course, nothing will happen. I'll be the candidate of the security, but with as less as changes as possible. And just behind him, Nicolas Sarkozy, who has a bunch of electors, will vote for him whatever he can say or do. He's a bunch of groupies, but behind that, because of the bad presidency, there's a lot of right-wing voters who are clearly opponent and who will vote anybody but Nicolas Sarkozy. And in this duel, my candidate is trying just to tell all the voters that if they want really changes, none of the two others will be the right president. One, because he has made lots of promises when he was elected and didn't hold these promises for the 5 years. And the second, because up front, he's just saying that I won't make the changes the country needs. And now it's the campaign, the real campaign. The first debate with the 7 candidates will be in 4 days now. The game is very open and much more open than what the poll will say, for one reason. The poll do not see anything and cannot see anything because they don't know who is going to vote. So that's the limits of these polls. And the second item that leads to consider that the game is very open, it's that the only figures we have are the leads that to the certainty that we will have many voters, more than 3 million. And the figures we have is the numbers of French people living outside of France who had to go on the site of the organization to register to vote. And we have 4 times more registration than the socialists had at their primaries. And there is nothing, you cannot imagine that right-wing voters outside of France are 4 times more numerous than left-wing, which is not the case. It's about half-half. It means that's a real interest. And the second figure was really interesting is that the organization had opened a site where you can't find your polling station, because of course it's not all the normal polling station. There will be a polling station organized by the party, and they gathered about 7 or 8 normal polling stations. So when you go to the site, you put the address of your normal polling station, and it gives you the address of the primary polling station. And for the first week, we had 800,000 people asking for this address. That means that the only certainty today for this election is that will be more than 3 million voters. That opens completely the game, and then we'll campaign. Thank you.